What's up, everyone? Welcome to the SmackDown review. This is Brett Mix here for Mixer Madness, my channel, for the SmackDown from Lincoln, Nebraska for January 12th, 2024, the second SmackDown in 2024. So much support on this channel already for this year for 2024. The channel's first new year. I appreciate all of the support. I've been completely overwhelmed in the last few weeks by the subscriber number. I figured if I just had a bit of support to start the year off, it'd be giving me some good momentum, but like I said, the outpouring of support in the subscriber count really blows me away and humbles me. So if you want a brief SmackDown results show, stay tuned to my reviews. I give you the basics with a touch of analysis. You don't have to sit through a bunch of ads and boring filler before you get to the point on this channel as far as reviews and previews go. I do that with my Monday Night Wars reviews as well. When I'm doing the Raw vs. Nitro, I stick right to the point, and then I get a little bit of an analysis with it. To open up the show from Lincoln, we had Grayson Waller take on Cameron Grimes. Grimes couldn't make it to the ring because the Bloodline jumped them. So we're about to get an interruption and a Bloodline segment. So no rating for that match as it didn't happen. Paul Heyman gets on the microphone with the Bloodline in the ring and says, "The bad guy isn't me. We're not the bad guys." He says, "It's the James Bond wannabe Nick Aldis. He put your tribal chief in a fatal four-way where it's practically guaranteed that the title will be lost by Roman Reigns." The wise man doesn't sound too confident. "That doesn't make us the bad guys," he says. "It makes Nick Aldis the bad guy." Aldis yanks the mic right from his hands and says from the outside apron, "The fatal four-way match at the Rumble is a done deal. This is the second match that it's been ruined by the Bloodline, and there won't be a third." Aldis makes a mention between Orton, Knight, and AJ that they'll take on the Bloodline tonight. In my SmackDown preview, I hinted that this six-man tag could probably be a go-home show six-man tag. Next week would be the edition that I previewed on my SmackDown preview. I said for next week that this match would happen, but they did it this week instead. Only it's 3-on-2. Roman's not in Lincoln, Nebraska, says Heyman, so they'll have to find a partner. So all this gives them to the end of the night to find a partner. Decent opening segment. It was logical. It was built for the main event and built surprise, wondering who the third man would be throughout the night. Plus, it built heat between Heyman and Aldis where Nick stood his ground. So it did a little bit of everything in a quick fashion, too, that you want from an opener. You want it to add suspense throughout the show. Finding a partner does that. And then you add suspense for the end of the show. Who is the partner? And then you want to make the main event for the show. So you tune in for the main event. So it did a little bit of everything. If you dissect it properly, you'll see it did every little bit of everything. They did it in quick fashion too. The segment was only about 5 minutes long. So Jimmy Uso is backstage. He's worried about this and asks Solo Sikoa if he's worried. And he turned to his side and went, "I never worry." And he had a badass look on his face. That was a good line by Solo Sikoa, who they're pushing hard after beating John Cena. Opening match, Angel Garza and Humberto Carrillo taking on Cruz del Toro and Joaquin Wilde. I'll try not to fumble upon their names. LWO with Selena Vega, Del Toro, and Wilde come to the ring. Running Hurricane Rana off the ropes. Springboard missile dropkick by Del Toro to Angel Garza. Double springboard plancha from the inside to the outside floor. Takes us to our first commercial break. Comes just 2 minutes into the match when we had a commercial break right before their entrances. So I'm wondering why we need another commercial. But that's what they decided to do. That's what they decided to do. They put the commercial breaks way too often and early into matches. I mean, I could see on the 3 hours of Raw where they have to put commercial breaks all the time. But this is a 2-hour SmackDown, man. So they don't have to do it that way, but they do. There's no valid reason, but it's their forte. But here we are. It may sound redundant at this point, but it's a valid point. With how quick these guys move, the chances are we're missing the best part of the match anyway. A spiked DDT as we come back from Humberto in a pinning attempt. Wild goes to the top, but Garza made sure he got caught on the top rope going first. Goes Wild off the top rope. Garza and Humberto on the top rope, both press slamming Wild to the canvas floor from very high up. A lot of elevation on that slam. A spinning sit-down powerbomb by Humberto, and he only gets a 2. Escobar nods his head in delight from the commentary table. Santos Escobar is on commentary, cheering on his guys. A high thrust kick by Angel and Humberto with a drop kick. Cruz del Toro with the corkscrew plancha to the outside. Carlito's theme hits, and he comes from behind to drop Escobar. He comes from behind the commentary table by surprise. Carlito throws Santos over the apron. Graves says no shortage of bad blood between these two. Shoulders down, hanging onto the ropes for leverage as Angel Garza got the pin on Cruz at 9:39. They're victorious, and they gave the match 2.5 stars. So pretty good opener here for SmackDown. Grayson Waller and Austin Theory are backstage, as is Nick Aldis. He's sitting with Carmelo Hayes. And Aldis says, I like this between you guys, the back and forth. So he makes a match later between Austin Theory and Carmelo Hayes. And Carmelo Hayes says, A-Town down, that's for sure. He says, I like the sounds of that. So we get a match between them later. Logan Cole has a big black eye, and he cuts a promo on Kevin Owens' cast, calling him a cheater for wearing it. He says, cheater, pumpkin eater. Yeah, that's really what he said. He's saying he will go deep in his pockets if it has to become a legal thing, and he'll take that cast to the Royal Rumble. And if he takes it to the Royal Rumble, he's gonna not grant him his match and disqualify him legally. He said, "I'll be deep in your pockets." And Owens answers back later in the night for another backstage tape promo where he says, I see what you're doing. I see the black eye. But next week, I want you on the Kevin Owens show. So next week, we're going to have the Logan Paul on the KO show, probably from the Go Home show from Atlanta, Georgia, next week on SmackDown. Bianca Belair versus Bayley, a roll-up to begin by Bayley and a kick-out, thank God. Where we know the roll-up finisher is used pretty fast these days, all the time these days, but this was just a quick little first move of the match. Belair Irish whipped Bayley, who was getting a big-time heel heat, and body slammed her twice. Bayley then gets in control. Bianca looking for a KOD, but dropped her on the apron face first. Bianca Belair flying through the air with the crossbody to the floor, and we go to a commercial. Bayley used her hair as a tripwire, and Bayley falls face first into the turnbuckle. And then as she freed herself from undoing her hair on the apron, Bayley again gets face first into the buckle with some headshots. Now Belair stretches Bayley's entire body on the ring post. Bayley uses her experience, her in-ring awareness, and her veteran instinct to turn the tide, as Graves says. A ramming shot by Bianca into Bayley. Bianca Belair spears Bayley repeatedly, a suplex, and she locks on another vertical suplex, dropping her to the mat. More right hands leveled Bayley with shots 20 times from above, as the fans counted 1 to 10 twice. Belair then gets a near fall. Bayley still kicks out. So Bianca and Bayley in a war here. Bayley's got all of Damage Control at ringside with her. So Bianca's really the odd woman out here. Bayley smacked Bianca Belair spine first into the corner. Belair elevated Bayley, who charged at her down on the canvas. A springboard moonsault, but Bayley kicked out at 2. Belair goes for a shot and then a rack, almost as a way to get a KOD, but Bayley again uses her weight to elevate Bianca Belair into the corner as she gets down on her feet, shoving her into the corner turnbuckle. Bayley goes for an elbow drop and gets a near fall. Bianca Belair and Bayley roll each other up, and Bianca Belair sent to the outside as Bayley rolls out to the ring. A crisscross and a spear by Belair as she taunts Damage Control. Then the kiss of death to Bayley, and Bianca gets her at 14:53. Interesting that the match has no interference when Damage Control is all out there. Damage Control are losers again. All I gotta ask is why. Doesn't anyone see the problem with that? Bayley and Damage Control really have to lose every big match they're in. I like when stables are booked dominant, especially if you're going to talk about being dominant or saying this is the year of Damage Control or stuff like that. At least have you win matches. They lost at the Survivor Series. They lost after that on SmackDown. And now they lose this on SmackDown as well. Gave the match 2 stars 3/4. It was still a good match. Kevin Owens, as I said, answered back the Logan Paul challenge. Lashley comes to the ring with the Profits and cuts a promo wearing shades. Finally, those little kid eyes he has are hidden. If Lashley's going to talk on the mic, he needs shades. Absolutely every time, no question. Lashley says, Karrion Kross, if you have an issue, we can settle this right here, right now. Paul Ellering then comes out in the darkness and points to the screen. And that's important because there's a big-time badass vignette by Karrion Kross and the AOP as they put forth a video package that intimidates. They call themselves the Final Testament, and the end is coming. Pretty cool video package. Backstage, and it kind of rattles Lashley and the Profits, who I still don't know what they are. Heels, faces. I guess they're faces that act like heels. If the AOP and Kross are the heels. Backstage, Pretty Deadly offer their services to Paul Heyman. They act dumb, and it's not funny. Heyman having a headache as he's not finding anybody, and he says to both of them, "You realize it's just one person that needs to team with us tonight, right? Just one." And then they talk about some more things that aren't funny. It's just pretty dumb. Pretty Deadly is pretty dumb. Heyman runs into the Profits, and he says to Lashley, Heyman says, "If you you can work out your aggression you have with Cross tonight." And Lashley says, "The only time I want to be in the ring with the Bloodline is standing against Roman Reigns." And then they do the fake SmackDown cheers, the wah! You know that sound? Wah! Well, maybe not Mankind like sounding. That sounds like 1996 Mankind whining. Wah! Wah! Not like when he has the mandible claw on someone. That sounds like Mankind. So no, not that, but more of a sound of whimpering. Either way, that's what happened. Anyways, let's move on. Carmelo Hayes takes on Austin Theory with Grayson Waller. Carmelo takes it to Austin Theory with a around-the-world facebuster after a springboard corkscrew clothesline. A lot of extremely impressive moves in this bout. Hayes off the top with the top splash fly. Both Theory and Lays handed awkwardly on their head. This one ended with no winner because of the abrupt ending. I didn't rate it because of that. No rating, but they did a lot of impressive moves in the match. They advertised next week's go-home show to the Royal Rumble one night before the Rumble from Atlanta, Georgia. Fire and Dawn take on the tag champs. KO on Logan Paul's show, and the contract signing with the four men one night before the Rumble, which is pretty soon to have it. Pretty short notice, I should say. Paul Heyman comes out to the conclusions that no one is worthy enough of tagging with the Bloodline after he wasn't able to get anyone to join the team. Jimmy says, "I'm worried," which the fans laugh at. Solo looks at him and says, "I'm not." And he comes out, so that's badass. The main event, Randy Orton, AJ Styles, and LA Knight take on Solo Sikoa and Jimmy Uso 3-on-2. I Hear Voices hits as Orton comes out to a big pop from Lincoln, Nebraska. And then Daddy gets jumped. I didn't just call Orton that, did I? Did I just call him Daddy? I assure you that's the last time. I assure you. The third man is no one, so good move for them to jump Orton to even the odds out to make it a 2-on-2 situation. A Samoan spike to Orton as the fans chant Randy as he's taken away going into commercial. We come back and it's LA Knight joining AJ Styles for a 2-on-2 match now. It would be 3-on-2 if Orton returned, but now it's 2-on-2. AJ Styles came out first, Knight next, who we haven't heard from in a while. LA Knight, you figure a promo from him would have been good, at least a backstage promo. They had enough segments on the show. They could have had one. Maybe him and Heyman could have worked out some magic. Maybe him and Styles could have, how are we going to coexist tonight after I beat you down the other way? They could have had, I think, booking-wise, a Styles Knight backstage interview would have been relevant. So now we're going to get a traditional tag. Styles takes it to Sikoa and Knight tagged in and put the yeah kicks in the corner. Everyone's chanting yeah. Styles with a flying forearm. Uso with a slap to Styles. Then AJ with a drop kick and a clothesline to Uso on the outside. Knight and Styles stand tall. Graves asks if the Bloodline can get back into this as we go to a commercial. Graves says wherever Roman is, he's got to be happy that the Bloodline have taken out Randy Orton. One of the three men in the match to take out. Sikoa chokes out Styles, then a dropkick from the outside by Uso as Knight points towards him face to face. Uso working on AJ cutting off their half of the ring. Jay is better, chants at Jimmy. Styles is approaching Sikoa and sent him into the ropes. Styles lands brilliantly on his feet with a dropkick. Knight wanted the hot tag and AJ looks at him and says, "What's up with the last instance?" In the last instance, LA Knight jumped off the apron and took care of Sikoa, who kept charging for him, so that's why he had to deal with that. He came back to the apron, and when AJ says, "Tap me in," he says, "Well, you weren't there last time," and while they're arguing, AJ ducks a thrust kick by Uso, and it hits Knight right off the apron. So AJ's inside the ring, arguing with LA Knight, who's on the apron. AJ ducks, and that super kick by Uso hits LA Knight off the apron to the floor. So some animosity between Knight and Styles after that, if there wasn't from the previous non-tag. Knight wanted a tag and got kicked off the apron. Voices hits, and Orton comes back as there was a double cross body between Styles and Sikoa. Randy Orton comes back into the match as Lincoln pops. Heyman's in disbelief and anger. He just has his hand on his head. He joins the fray, and Styles tags Orton for the hot tag, and the place erupts as Randy power slams Uso and goes for the middle rope on Uso. And I say this as he plants Jimmy down. Fans erupt as Orton goes for the RKO. Uso with a roll-up and a super kick by Uso, and then an RKO, even though he got the super kick and landed it for the 3 count. Orton, AJ, and Knight win the match. I rated it 3 stars. After the match, Sokola went in for Orton, but AJ with a phenomenal forearm, then a BFT by Knight. All 3 faces stood tall over the Bloodline just 13 days before the Rumble. An RKO to Sola for good measure. Fans chant Randy, and Uso gets another uppercut. Styles pounds away on Uso, and Orton drops him into the steps. Knight sends a message. Styles clears the table off, and Sokola is powerbombed by all 3 men through the table, eliminating first by LA Knight with the extermination. Heyman says at the entranceway, very dramatically into his phone, "Call Roman Reigns," as SmackDown fades off 112-24 from Lincoln, Nebraska. Show gets a 5 out of 10 overall. It had a decent main event, a pretty good match, a pretty good build, a decent Bayley Bianca Belair match. Some pretty good moves in the LWO tag and the Hayes Theory match, even if the overall matches weren't technically great. Would have liked to have seen a live promo from LA Knight or Randy Orton, perhaps one from Paul Heyman and them. But that interaction earlier with Aldis and Heyman was good. I thought both men stood their ground, and it added more to that rivalry on the show. Nonetheless, a 5 seems fair for no Roman Reigns SmackDown. Next week is the Rumble Go-Home show, so it should be pretty big with Roman Reigns there. The contract signing, he will appear there, as will Paul and Owens, who have to both be on the KO show next week. So that does it for this week's SmackDown, the week that was, before the 2 go-home shows next week to the Royal Rumble. As always, I'll be here to preview and review both shows. Thanks for tuning in, and smash that like button if you made it all to this point. And as always, stay subscribed and notified on this channel. I'm doing the Monday Night Wars every day, and I think you all like them if you pay attention. I'm Brett Mix, and that's what they're there for. Whenever you want to pay attention, you don't have to watch them live, but whenever you want to go back and rewatch the Wars, they're there. They're archived. I'm Brett Mix, and I'll be back with an In Memory Of video tomorrow, as I always do a In Memory Of video every Saturday on a deceased wrestler. Tomorrow I'll be doing Chris and Nancy Benoit. I won't be paying tribute to Chris. You'll see in my review. I'm Brett Mix, and I'll be back tomorrow for that review, and I'll be back Sunday night to preview Raw. So that's all for this SmackDown review from Lincoln, Nebraska, January the 12th, 2024. Thank you for watching my review. Stay liked and subscribed and notified. I'm Brett Mix, and I'm out.